Good afternoon. The June 4th, 2013 meeting of the Oklahoma City Water Utilities Trust will be in order. The first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the May 7th meeting.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the May 7th minutes. Are there questions, comments, corrections, additions? Hearing none, voting please. Minutes are approved. Next item, the consent docket.
Move the consent docket, subject to individual consideration.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the consent docket. Are there matters to be discussed separately? Hearing none, voting please. Consent docket's approved. Next item, the concurrence docket.
I'll move the concurrence docket. Second.
Motion and a second to approve the concurrence docket. Are there matters on it to be discussed individually? Hearing none, voting please. Concurrence docket's approved. Next item, item 5, an emergency resolution ratifying the actions of the general manager concerning the emergencies caused by the May 20th incident.
Move the item.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the item. Is there discussion? Hearing none, voting please. The emergency resolution is approved. Next item are items to be considered individually. First item is the fiscal year budget for 2014. Do you have a presentation on it?
We do have a brief presentation.
Okay.
That's all right with you.
It's fine with me.
Debbie? Mr. Chairman and trustees, we're proud to present the proposed Water Utilities Trust 2014 fiscal year budget. I'm in charge. I'll visit with you a bit about the budget overview, about your funds and their sources, about how we use those funds, more specifically about trust operations, which is your separate budget, and then hit some highlights on the proposal. The total estimated income and other sources of funds for fiscal year 14 is $248,500,000. Let's talk about those a bit. Services and charges would be for water $114 million, for wastewater about $85 million, for a total of about $200 million roughly. System development charges are anticipated at $1.5 million. Interest about $2.1 million. Billing services fees, those are fees that we collect from other utilities for whom we bill, at $2.6 million. Other miscellaneous revenues and debt proceeds, new debt of about $41.3 million. Trust operations, which we'll describe in more detail, total about, in terms of uses, total about $17 million. Non-ratepayer operations, about $800,000. City utilities operations, about $82 million. Capital improvements, $94.3 million. And debt service payments of $39.4 million. And in a pie chart, a little bit easier to see, you can see that the operations budget is about a third of your total income. The capital improvements program is about 38% of the total income. Non-ratepayer revenues, a very small amount again. Contract operations is the wastewater agreement with Veolia for operation of our wastewater treatment plants. That's about 6% of your income. And again, debt service at about just under $40 million. The trust operations budget, of which you have a detailed handout, includes franchise fees and lease payments, service contracts like different from the Veolia agreement, organizational memberships, cost share payments for water supply lakes, and a number of unique contracts. For example, in the past year, we asked Aqua to hire a contractor to help us dispose of water treatment plant sludge when that sludge volume overtopped our ability as a staff to handle this during the drought conditions that we saw. That's a part of the Aqua budget for the coming year as well, in a small amount, about $1.5 million. Implementation of the Water Conservation Program, hiring OSU Extension Service specifically to assist us in that, is a part of the Aqua budget at about $400,000. And then adding a contract for what's called closed caption TV inspection services, TVs in sewers, to help us tell what's going on with them, is another item that's an individual thing in the Aqua budget. In terms of the city's operating budget, we're looking at the many divisions of the Department: water quality, the people who run our lakes and our water treatment plants; wastewater quality, the people who manage our wastewater operations, contract with Veolia and operate our 70 lift stations; line maintenance, the people who manage and maintain our 6,000 miles of pipelines; customer service, the people who send bills and answer customer questions about bills, reading meters and turning on and off service; engineering and administration, the folks who manage or design projects, identify our long-range capital improvements, and also support us through education, finance, management, procurement, things of that nature. So in the operating budget, we're proposing 7 additional positions, giving back some temporary positions. Specifically, we propose adding 1 operator trainee in the water treatment process to help us. We've always used operator trainees in lieu of other position titles in the water treatment plants to bring people in who have potential to become full-time, long-term operators, but who need to get their operator certification before they can do that. In this case, we're adding an operator trainee to recognize both that it's a continuous position and also to be able to make a long-term commitment and advertise that we have those positions vacant to help build to build a base of employees as we go through our continuity program implementation, which requires we get more younger, newer employees into our organization for people like me who are retiring in the next 10 years.
Marshall, would we have 1 employee in this category in every one of our water treatment plants?
No, sir, this is really just 1 employee. It's a separate add-on to, we may have operator trainees in all of the plants who are in lieu of other positions. We're anticipating more opportunity to hire folks who are going to school in this area. Rose State's starting a program, but also through the OSU, we have education opportunities for this background. They need a certain amount of real operator experience before they can become licensed. So we're looking at finding people who are going through this education program who can come in and then would promote up as they get experience into our operator and chief plant operator titles.
Thank you.
So starting with just 1, looking forward to seeing what happens. And we'll also look at whether we need to adjust titles in future budgets as well. Line maintenance's budget will change to add repair parts and maintenance parts. We're also adding 3 utility worker positions to help us comply with and meet the needs for Oki locates in our system. We've seen failures to get to Oki locates cause damage to our utility that we then can't be reimbursed for because we didn't locate appropriately. We think the 3 workers is probably not all that we'll need, but we want to try the process and make certain that, again, we continue to hit the highest priority of the locates, the most difficult the most important facilities to us. By way of background, Oki locates is the one-call process in which we're all encouraged before we dig in our backyards, front yards, anywhere, to have them come out, have utilities come out and mark. So there are occasionally times when we don't have utilities in the area. We want a better ability to make certain we're making a decision about whether we have anything there, locating it again based on priorities, most important facilities first. Line maintenance estimates this may locate 30% of the total, may respond to about 30%. We're going to find out with this addition whether that's an adequate number. I believe it will be. It'll be a test. In customer service, we're deleting 4 temporary customer service representatives that were added to the system in 2009 when we implemented the SAP billing system. We're adding a unit operations leader to assist us with analyzing and reporting and implementing the data that we get from our new customer service electronic database that essentially operates off a telephone system, among others. And we're adding a water service representative. What a water service representative does is go out and turn on water, turn off the water meter, turn on the water meter. It's the first responder for customer problems. They're the people who diagnose and determine whether line maintenance is needed or what type of crew might be needed for a customer's individual problem. And we have not added a person in this title for 10 years. It's a growth response. In engineering, we're proposing adding a civil engineer, an engineering aide, and then an administration and database technician. These folks are involved with operation of our engineering contracts. Database technician helps make payments for construction and engineering and process agenda items for us. Civil engineer and engineering aide will work on implementation of the raw water supply program, which includes preparing engineering as we will begin this year for the Atoka Pipeline project. Water and sewer capital improvements total about $94 million. It's a very large wastewater capital improvement program. It typically runs about $25 to $30 million. It's larger than historical, while the water CIP is a little bit smaller than it has in the last couple of years. The map shows us in red colors where the sewer projects are either underway or getting started in 2014. The blue colors are water projects either underway or getting started in 2014. Where there's an area that's marked out, that's a neighborhood replacement project. You'll see dots at each of our water and wastewater treatment plants, and that's because there's something going on this year at just about everywhere except the South Canadian plant, I think, including improvements to the Witcher pump station, improvements to the North Canadian plant. We'll get into that in a little more detail. You'll notice that the pipeline that came started at Lake Stanley Draper at the southwest corner of the lake, the southeast corner of your map, has now extended past World Rogers World Airport, and we're beginning at the northeast corner of World Rogers World Airport and going west to finally get to extend the line to a major pump station, improve that pump station in this capital program to begin to provide greatly increased volumes of water to the southwest. We have been making progress each year as we build more pipe. This particularly getting to the pump station will make a big difference for us in 1 year. Going into the details of the capital program, we're currently adding 25 million gallons a day of capacity to the Hefner water treatment plant. These are pictures, the bottom pictures are of the Hefner plant expansion, and the top is of a lift station rehabilitation. We're, with the Hefner plant expansion, we set aside improvements to a chemical building, knowing that the construction would be very complicated on that site to do both. And so this year, the chemical plant, primarily the plant's chemical building, will get constructed at a cost of about $10 million. In the water system, we're building about $8 million worth of rehabilitation improvements. I think it's 8.4, 3.9 of which are going into neighborhoods, pipe replacement. Again, we're continuing our westward pipe expansion and beginning the engineering for the Atoka Pipeline project. On the wastewater side, we're making improvements at the North Canadian wastewater treatment plant, which are largely rehabilitation in nature, no new capacity, much replacement of basic worn-out facilities. We're completing the Chisholm Creek Interceptor coming into the village, which is one of our large wastewater customers, to stop overflows in that immediate area around North Penn near the village. And again, making a large number of rehabilitation improvements on the sewer side, including about $8 million in pipeline replacement work. This is a picture of wastewater treatment plant improvements. This is the Chisholm Creek plant expansion currently in operation. This year we'll change the disinfection methods at the Chisholm Creek wastewater treatment plant, get the design done to begin transitioning away from chlorine toward a different method of disinfection, probably ultraviolet light treatment. We will also be spending about $2 million this year to control invasive odors from the treatment plants. I think that wraps up the budget. I'm happy to answer questions.
Marcia, I noticed the proposed revenues are down for 2014. What sort of formulas, analysis are you all doing to estimate that water revenues will drop next year?
That's a really good question. You know, we traditionally look at revenue changes based on the rate increase and volumes. In the last couple of years, we've had extraordinary volume increases. We're running around 100 million gallons, 104 million gallons a day, and in 2011 and 2012, we jumped to 111 and 110 million gallons a day, as I recall. So it's a big change. 7% is a lot when you're operating at that level. So the drought, we clearly saw the impact of the drought, and I think what you're seeing is a slightly normalized estimate.
So we're reverting to the mean?
We're more comfortable, and that may be, I should tell you that the operating budget required substantial adjustments because we were keeping with the mean. Mm-hmm. This summer we expect, once again, a hotter than normal, drier than normal year. We're starting the year with more water in our local lakes than we had last year. We're really excited about that. All of which says, we went with the more normal. Right. We upped it some based on what we thought reality was. So that sounds pretty goofy. So we've made we've made a marginal adjustment. We didn't go the whole way.
Okay. No, that's fine. I appreciate that.
Marcia, would it be safe to say that all this is paid for by the trust revenues? There's no taxpayer money in this?
Yes, sir, that's correct. We'll be issuing some new debt. We're paying for most of the capital program, again, with cash, about 57%, I think, but part of the capital program with debt.
Thank you.
Any further comments on the budget? Do we have a motion to approve the budget?
Move approval?
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the budget. Are there further comments or questions? Hearing none, voting please. Budget's approved. Next item, item B, request a change request to statement of work by Vertex Business Systems.
Mr. Chairman and trustees, we have Jay Resling and Lee Cooper. If you could raise your hands from Vertex here. Lee Booth is right here at the computer, project manager for this next project. You may recall that they spoke at the last trust meeting, and that was phase one of our customer service, self-service initiative, and now we're proposing to proceed with phase two. It's not going to work with up here, so I have to have you. Next slide, please. The statistics, we wanted to provide you with that. Where we are today is our customers are much more customer-oriented with using computers of all kinds. Smartphones, tablets, PCs, etc. 50% of all U.S. adults have smartphones. That's expected to grow over the next 5 years to around 90%. It's hard to buy a phone that's not a smartphone today. Next slide. The trustees in September 2012 commissioned a study with Cole, Hargrave, Snodgrass and Associates through Visual Image. And in this poll, we were asking all kinds of questions to customers about their billing preferences and payment preferences. Participants were asked about their current perceptions of our billing options and their satisfaction level, what they would like to see compared to what they have, and what other utilities offer. 87% of those surveyed stated they would consider moving to electronic billing if it were secure and easy to use. And you may recall in the past we've talked about moving that direction. We're handicapped right now with our technologies that we have. We need to move to new technology so we can enable this functionality. Next slide. On May 15, 2012, trustees authorized improvements to replace our outdated call center. We talked about that last week, to improve our ability and customer satisfaction. The big part of that was customer focused was that customers could now call our automated voice response system and self-serve themselves 24/7. And that's been very successful. We've had a lot of positive comments from customers of all ages about that product. Trustees also approved a self-service audit performed by Vertex to look into ways to improve our customer satisfaction through our web portal, our web services, and provide offerings up to current utility industry standards. Vertex, I have 2 slides on this. Basically, their findings were customers should have options to receive their bill, whatever technology they have. If they like a tablet, if they like a smartphone, if they like a PC, we need to play in their realm to make it easy for them. We should have consolidated pages focused on things the customers most want to see. Vertex did an evaluation of what things in our current website customers touch and how much and the preferences they have. But of course, we couldn't check things that they want to have, so we relied on the survey for that. Customers should have the ability to figure out on that website how they want to pay. If they want to pay one way and they like that way, we should figure out a way to make that happen. Customers should be able to be served during our working hours by our customer service representatives. If somebody gets hung up in the website, they should be able to call our call center and say, I'm over here on this page on the website and I can't get this thing to do what I want it to do. What do I need to do? Okay? So we would have to gear up to be able to provide that technical support to our customers. Customers should be able to download their billing data. We have a lot of demands by businesses, by governmental agencies where they may have 100 accounts and they want us to go get all that information and put it in a spreadsheet and give it to them. Whereas if we had the ability in our website for a customer to self-select the data they want and download it, whereas you will see that a lot of times now in banking or investments, people can do that. Customers should be able to do that. Next slide. Websites should be able to use what they call responsive design, which means if we write our software so that no matter what device a customer uses, it looks nice on the screen. So if they have a certain type of, like an iPhone or an Android or a BlackBerry or a tablet or whatever, it still looks okay. We have some of those limitations right now. Customers should be allowed to enroll in various offerings, such as average billing. We should be able to let customers easily look at their bulky waste. Industrial waste customers, we have over 1,000 customers, industrial customers, that we collect samplings of their waste stream and put test results. And right now they have to wait for a letter to come to them to get their results in the mail. We could put that on the website since we've already implemented our laboratory information management functionality. We could put that on there for them so they could see that. I'd like to review the current billing and payment processing activities, a way to possibly pay for some or all of these improvements. If you look at the slide here, on the left the pie chart shows the kinds of bills we produce and how many of each group, like 79% are paper bills mailed. The cost per bill, notice, is about 82% costs of producing those bills for paper bills. So the alignment between what we produce and what it costs us is pretty close. There's not a lack of alignment there. Now, if you look at the next slide, for payment processing, it's out of alignment quite a bit. With that, what you see is that the lockbox was the way everybody paid their bill in the old days. And we would mail them a bill, they'd send it back with the envelope we provided, and pay their bill. Now, only 39% of our customers do that. Most of our customers are using one of the electronic means of paying their bill, but we're still spending the money to send them the paper bill. The other thing we find is that only 2% of our customers walk into the call center or to the walk-in center at 420, but it's 40% of our costs now. So there's an imbalance there. So when we look at this, we need to figure out a way to move our customers where it's the least cost for us to send them a bill and process their payment. And that way is to go electronic bill presentment and payment. So the next slide shows you a tally of the total costs to produce the bills, $1.3 million. We have some customers, very few, getting an email hypertext where we send them back to okc.gov. They got to sign on to see their bill. Collect and process payments and receive walk-in payments is almost $400,000 for the first floor facility. The next slide sees there are many different ways customers can pay their bill. They can pay with a kiosk. If they use a kiosk, they cannot use a credit card because we signed up for the fixed charge per transaction program that Visa, MasterCard, and Discover has, which means we get charged a fixed fee every time someone uses it. In the old days, we used to get charged 3%. So we could have someone pay a $2,000 bill, and we could end up eating 3% of that money. We never get. Hundreds of dollars a transaction. The next slide, I wanted to be able to show you the range, the broad range of cost exposure Aqua has based on the customer's preference on how they receive and choose to pay their bill today. So you can see that on the highest number, $11.13. If a customer gets a paper bill and the customer walks into the the walk-in center at 420, it costs us $11.13 per customer to just take their money. And our base charge is $10.55. So that's probably not the most cost-effective way. On the other end of the spectrum, if we implement this new technology and move to electronic bill presentment where they get a smart PDF of their bill mailed to them in an email, and they click a pay button and it's taken out of their checking account electronically, the total cost of that round trip is 20 cents. So we can see that there's a range of these costs, and what we would like to see is to eliminate the higher cost ones and move people to the lowest cost one over a period of time, as much as we possibly can. Next slide. So we're proposing some self-service improvements to outsource the web software portal, the platform that we would use with Vertex to have them host the application. They're already doing this for many other utilities and can do so more cost effectively. We've looked into the technologies that Aqua would have to buy. We would have to spend over $1.2 million in software alone in development just to develop this in-sourced. And whereas, then we would have like $300,000 a year of operating costs if we were to do that at least. Whereas we can do it outsourcing, the next slide, is that you can see we could do this for around $482,600 with Vertex, $10,000 with Kubler, which I just got a current quote on that. It's down to $8,700. We have a 200-hour contingency of $32,000 we're not sure we'll use or not, but Marcia would make the decision as to whether we would do that or not according to the contract. And with that, we would be able to implement this capability and start marketing it to our customers to migrate them to the full electronic bill presentment payment option.
Right.
And after we implement this, we can bring back at a later time the opportunity for the trustees to consider whether to close the first floor facility at 420 once we get the technology implemented. And the next slide, the financial benefits, next slide. Financial benefits, we talked to other utilities about what their experience is. How many of their customers actually will use this if they create it? The range has been 20, 25, 35%. Some utilities started charging $1 for a paper bill and free if you get an electronic bill, and they get to 80%, okay? But we're looking at if we were able to just do 25% over a period of 3 or 4 years, we could get that 25% of our customers to move to full electronic bill presentment payment. Our cost production would go down quite a bit. We would end up, after we pay the cost to the annual hosting costs of $108,000, we could have a net annual savings of somewhere around $600,000. So that won't start there. It might start break even or so and then migrate up, but at least it gives us the potential to migrate into a much lower cost per transaction methodology down the road. And as we see customers move more and more and more this direction where they're electronically paying their bills, we can migrate in that direction. We've discussed at earlier meetings about the possibility of going to a convenience fee for one-time transactions. We could reconsider that down the road also as we move forward to further financially encourage people to move that direction. But at this time, the next step would be for us to migrate to a more current technology so we could make this happen. And next slide. With that, we would recommend that we approve this contract and proceed with this project. About 90 to 120-day project, and we would be going live and be able to start offering this service to our customers.
About when, you said?
90 to 120 days.
Okay.
A customer currently gets a bill in paper form and has it paid by his bank account automatically. If we gave him a electronic bill, would he qualify for this as a participant in this electronic?
Any customer, once we implement this technology, any customer can choose to move that direction if they want to do so.
But a customer who's currently on that system,
Yes.
if we replace his paper bill with a electronic bill,
Right.
he would have to do nothing else as far as his bill being paid automatically out of his checking account?
Yes, the customer, only thing the customer would have to do is tell us that the customer wants to do that, and we can make that happen. We just need to know their email address to make that happen.
And you wouldn't have to re-enroll in ACH?
No. No.
I mean, I really do believe this is the direction. Almost everybody's pushing everything I've got, whether it's a broker statement or a bank statement or a utility bill or an insurance bill or anything. They're all trying to get you to bill electronic presentation. It isn't that we're forcing it, but at least making it available, I think, is a reasonable option. Doesn't mean you have to do it, but having it out there available to you, I think makes some sense.
Well, when people understand the cost savings that are there, and then, the fact that you don't have to produce paper bills, we don't have to buy paper, I mean, all of that kind of environmental impact, if you will, it clearly is a win-win.
Cody, I didn't know you were that green.
What can I say?
We have a motion on the
Move
request.
approval. Second.
Motion and a second to approve item 6B. Is there further discussion or comment? Hearing none, voting please. 6B is approved. Do we need executive session? Actually, I'm looking forward to venting a little bit. We need a motion to strike the executive session.
Second?
Motion and a second to strike the executive session. Voting please. Stricken.
Let me ask a question. Have we heard anything about the Tarrant County lawsuit, about it coming out?
No, they're looking at an announcement sometime or a decision to be made sometime in July or August.
And then what would that have, what impact, if any, would that have on our negotiations in this particular item?
Well, it could. I don't think it depends on what the ruling is. They could send it back to the lower court with specific directions to look at this area. They could overturn it. They could affirm it. There's a lot of places it could go. So I don't think.
Assuming for a second they confirm it, that we get a green light, that everything was done right, and all the lower courts did the right thing, what impact would that have on these negotiations?
Well, I think it had no impact on the negotiation. I think we finalized the negotiations. We've had more progress on the negotiations in the last 6 weeks. I don't think a report at this point in time, but technically, and we've really we're making some pretty.
We'll continue to negotiate during the course of this court session.
And no, we're continuing. We're negotiating at a higher and more rapid level than we have in the past. There's more urgency to it at this
Okay,
point.
thank you.
Items from trustees.
I'd like to ask Marcia if has our water and wastewater system completely recovered from the storm effects?
Yes. Wastewater treatment is still a little bit higher than normal. We have flow equalization basins at each of our, in some fashion, at each of our wastewater treatment plants, so that when we get additional stormwater, we'll get stormwater coming in during peak rain events, we are able to hold that and treat it gradually.
So your holding facilities are large enough to do that?
Yes, we did. I think we had one facility that was completely full. We used all of the holding facilities this year and held our own. So we've been pumping about 20% above what we consider peak design of very low strength wastewater. So we're meeting permit requirements even though we're exceeding flow rates. And again, we're emptying out the basins as fast as we can. I don't know whether today's rain had an impact on we are preparing those. We always do when there's a rain in the forecast for more rain, and I'm sure the wastewater plant operators are pushing through at a treatable but reasonable rate of flow to get ready for the rain.
Did any of the rain we've had in the last couple of weeks impact Canton?
This morning's rain at Canton impacted it. Yeah, it's up about, pardon me, let me answer your question. It's up about a half a foot. So they're at about 34,000 acre feet today total. There's more rain expected this afternoon. They've had...
And the percentage capacity would be what?
About 30%.
30%, okay.
33, 34.
Oh, okay.
And usable about 20.
Right.
So we're making progress. Lakes Atoka and McGee Creek are, of course, full. Lake Atoka overflowed for the first time in a few years over the weekend, so we got to take a look at how the improvements that we made at the dam worked, and we're pleased with how those performed. Our local lakes are full. Lake Draper got a half a foot of rain, and so it's about 7.5 feet low today compared to normal. We're pleased about that. So overall, with the exception of Canton, we're in pretty good shape.
So do you have a number for May's precipitation total?
No, I'm sorry, I don't, but I'll email you. It was way above normal.
Well, certainly, and it was just, I didn't know where they cut it off on that last Friday, Saturday. I mean, it was 8, 9, 10 inches, depending on where you were in the metro, and so...
So lakes are better. We're at about 2 years' worth of stored capacity. We started out at about a year and a half. We're feeling pretty good about that.
And the current rainfall will put us well above an average annual amount, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And so even if we have a drier than normal like we had expected, we're still going to be okay coming out of this year.
Yes, we think we're in much better shape. We are, in a separate item, we have the conservation program. We are implementing the conservation program.
Right.
Folks are asking us the question about, well, isn't the drought over? Why are you asking me? We've worked on good answers for folks about that.
But Hefner's full, Overholser's full, Atoka's the water's going over the rivers at Atoka, McGee Creek's in the flood pool, and so there's 4 lakes that are totally full.
Right.
Draper's down 12?
No, today it's at 11,
Okay.
almost 1179, so
Okay.
about 8.
So it's coming up, but that's still a result of our shutting down the pump station for the construction work that we did at Draper.
Yeah.
So the only lake that's really down problematically for us is Canton, which is down about 12 feet at this point. And
Yeah, we are in much better shape than we were at this time last year. Looking forward to, unfortunately, a hotter than normal summer, and modestly normal conditions in our region, but dry in the west.
To change the subject a little bit, today at the council meeting, we were talking in the budget sessions, we had a pretty extended conversation about tap fees. And I think while most of us that were on the council have some different ideas about why we got so bogged down the last time we tried to do it. I mean, I think principally it was the downturn in the economy, but it was already in a mess before the economy turned down. And part of the reason I think it was is because I think we asked for it too broad. We tried to fix every problem that you can fix with the tap fee. We tried to fix it all at one time. We had parks and cops and streets and fire and everybody else.
no, we didn't. We had parks, water, streets.
Okay,
and wastewater.
who'd I miss? Okay, we didn't have cops. But we had
Fire.
I tell you, I think, and the result of that was we got all the building people all stirred up, and they got a law passed that's going to really throw a thorn in our side, I think. But I'd like an analysis so that over this summer we can start to look at that again, whatever it is. I'm given to hyperbole, you understand that. If I throw the cops in there and there's 8 on the list and I had 9, well, that's just me. You have to excuse me for that. But I mean, it's not like I don't know it.
We'd be happy to do that. We'd be happy to do that. We're actually have begun doing some work on that already, so we would be happy to do
I
that.
think perhaps maybe looking at it a little simpler might help, because we're going to have to go to the legislature, I believe, and try to get them to change the legislation, because the idea, this bit about that if you have a tap fee, you have to spend the money where you collect the tap fee, doesn't work for water and sewer. It may work for streets, might work for parks, but it doesn't work for us. Because our problems are pressure problems. You have to go spend the money at the plants to build capacity. You can't go spend the money at the plant.
Right. I'm not sure it's that far off. We'll take a look at that and see if we need to do some recommendations on
Well, again, I'm like I said, I'm given to hyperbole a little bit, so you have to take that.
We are, the trust today authorized the contract for cost of service analysis by Red Oak / Arcadis Consulting. The contract is ready to go and would appreciate discussions with the trust. We'll get in touch with you about your schedules so that we can set up a time for the first discussion with the contractor about your thoughts related to the cost of service study. We'll do a little intro work describing the general concepts, which I know y'all have all seen in the past, and then like to visit with you about the prosecution of that work, in which these kinds of things may be included at your discretion.
And I also can appreciate the continued effort on this water conservation thing. I think the more we get that out, and the more we let the public know that this is not a response to a drought, it's a response to the sensible long-term use of conservation of our supply, the better off we are. Anything else? Any other things need to be discussed? We're adjourned. Thank you.
So potentially we could have the contractor come in at your next meeting and have a workshop in the back there.
Good.